Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. It's your man, Gavin Johnson. We are back. We are back. Hope everybody's having a very good week. Hope you are looking forward to the weekend. Listen, you can't get here fast enough for me. It cannot get here fast enough for me. All right. You know, if you was here Tuesday, did the first part of the NFC preview. And listen, before somebody critiques me on the Thunder, our brother was rushing. I got a couple of things I'm working on. Trying to add some different stuff to the show, working on a kind of a different intro video and all of that kind of stuff. The bells and whistles that comes along with the YouTube creator stuff. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. So yeah, we did part one. We broke down the NFC East, NFC North. I kind of gave you one of my Super Bowl picks. Yeah, will I backtrack off of it after a good night's sleep? We'll see. But tonight we will be focusing in on the final two divisions in the NFC South and NFC West. And one of these divisions, it's going to be one to kind of keep your eye on. It's going to be one to kind of keep your eye on just because on how unpredictable this division is in particular. But, we'll talk about that as we kind of get to it. We're going to start off with the NFC West. Talk about the defending NFC champions, the team that's coming in as the favorite to not only win the NFC, one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. We're talking about the San Francisco 49ers, who return pretty much a big chunk of their roster, didn't lose too many pieces, had a pretty decent draft. Now, they do have some issues as far as guys holding out. You have Trent Williams, possibly the best offensive lineman, regardless of position, holding out for a rework deal. Then you also have the Brandon Ayuk situation hanging over this season. In this season, for me, and I've talked about this on previous shows, it's going to be a make or break year for the San Francisco 49ers, because if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, salary cap is going to be a very, very, very serious issue for this team going forward, because Brock Purdy is going to be in line to get a substantial raise off of the rookie deal that he's working on now. So he's going to be in line to get a substantial extension. If he has another season, much like he did last season, that's going to be something you're going to have to kind of look out for as we get into the latter days of the season. But as far as the team itself, the talent on the field, it's hard to not pick the San Francisco 49ers to repeat as division champions. It's hard to not pick the San Francisco 49ers as being one of the teams, as I like to call tier one teams, is going to be in the mix and deciding home field advantage in the NFC in a possible Super Bowl representative. Now, if you're one of those people that, will pick the San Francisco 49ers, that's going to run chalk and pick them, listen, I can't argue with that logic. You returning Brock Purdy, who had a fantastic season, was in the MVP conversation for a good chunk of the season last year. Have Christian McCaffrey, the offensive player of the year, with the year that he had. He's got a big deal. Had Brandon Ayuk, who had a very good year. This a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and that's just the offensive side of the ball. I think defensively, they've got some issues to kind of work out. One of the issues they had last year was that run defense to a degree, but pass coverage with that linebacker core, Fred Warner. Hopefully Dre Greenlaw comes back at 100% for next year. But this is going to be a team that I think is going to win the division. I think this team is going to division comfortably, at least by 2 games. It's not going to be too much of a threat. Now, that's not to say there's not any good teams in the division, but I think when you look at the talent that San Francisco has, along with the coaching, along with the structure that they have in there, it's going to be the team. It's going to be the betting favorite to win the NFC West once again. Like I said, the biggest questions coming into the season: Will Ayuk and Trent Williams get broke off? Will they get paid? And if they get paid, what does that leave for Brock Purdy? What is left in the pot for Brock Purdy? Because that's a lot of guys you've had to pay if you pay Ayuk and Trent Williams. That is a lot of guys you've had to pay over the last couple of years. And we've talked about this also on previous shows. Teams that have quarterbacks on rookie deals tend to be more aggressive as far as the signings and all of that. I mean, we're talking about Christian McCaffrey's gotten paid. You brought in Hargrove last year to help try to shore up that interior of that defensive line. Fred Warner has gotten paid, as in could be due for another extension very soon. Greenlaw, of course, you have Ayuk and Trent Williams looking at them to get new money. So could the pressure of that looming over the season, could that have an effect on the San Francisco 49ers? I don't think so, as far as we're talking about wins and losses. But if they do not win the Super Bowl, we could be having a very different conversation about the San Francisco 49ers next year, because there's going to be some roster changes. It's going to have to be some roster changes because Brock Purdy is going to get paid. As we look at the rest of the division, it's a lot to like with the NFC West this year. I think it's a lot of changes going on in this division overall under the San Francisco 49ers. And this division, we could be talking about this division probably being the best division in the NFC in maybe about another year, if things kind of break the way they should break. When I think the team is going to finish second, I think the Rams are in prime position, simply because they have the best quarterback outside of Brock Purdy as far as production is concerned. Matthew Stafford is a much better quarterback right now at this point in his career than Kyler Murray is. He's a much better quarterback than Geno Smith. When you look at what's going on, Ghost Man, they're going to replace him mid-season. We'll see. But I got the Rams finishing second in this division, simply for the fact, hey, this is a team that returns Matthew Stafford. Hopefully he's healthy. I think that's going to be one of the biggest question marks for the Rams, because when all of their guys are healthy, when you look at the talent that they have, especially on the offensive side of the ball, they can compete with the San Francisco 49ers. When we're talking about talent at certain positions, you have two guys, Puka Nacua, wide receiver who came out of nowhere last year, lit up the league. Put up very big numbers. They still have Cooper Kupp, who is in place. You have Matthew Stafford, who has, in my opinion, if I had to pick a quarterback out of this division, Matthew Stafford would be my quarterback. I think Brock Purdy's in the best situation as far as quarterback is concerned, but it's not like Matthew Stafford is that far behind. And for that reason alone, I talked about the Rams last year. That was my dark horse team. I don't think a lot of people was up on them. Now it's going to be a different kind of feel on the defensive side of the ball. Aaron Donald with the sudden retirement this offseason. I know he had talked about it for the past couple of years. I don't think, fans were ready for him to retire, but I think the team has done a very good job in preparing for him to retire. Last year, they had a lot of young guys on the defensive side of the ball. They got a lot of experience. The defense got a lot better. As the season went on, they bring in some other guys this season in the draft. I like Verse. Now he's not going to replace Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is one of the greatest defensive players I've ever seen in my lifetime. He's not going to replace the production of Aaron Donald, but this defense, they went through their struggles early in the year because we were talking about a very young defense, very young secondary, very young front seven. Got a lot of experience. The defense got a lot better, and much like I talked about Detroit being, one of those sleeper teams, as I kind of watched the season last year, the Rams really, really, really impressed me. I didn't overlook them. They were a team to watch. Matthew Stafford is a guy who has won a Super Bowl, so that is something to not poo-poo at. They still have Sean McVay in as the head coach. I think this defense is going to play. It's going to play better. You don't replace the Aaron Donald, but with the pieces that they have in place, the young guys who got experience last year and the guys that they're bringing in through free agency and the draft, I think this defense is going to be very underrated. I don't think people are going to give them the proper respect. I do have the Rams making the playoffs. I ain't gonna lie to you. I do have the Rams making the playoffs. If Stafford stays healthy. Now, if Stafford goes down, we're having a very different conversation because injuries kind of caused this team to have a slow start last year. But if they remain healthy, you could be talking about the Rams, maybe in the conference championship game with the pieces that they have in place. You heard it here first. Now, I'm not picking them to be in the conference championship game, but listen, if the Rams make a deep playoff run, I would not be surprised. When you look at the level of talent that they have. They have a nice running back group. Offensive line played a lot better than people expected. You have two legit. I can put Puka Nacua in that conversation. Legit number one type receivers for Matthew Stafford to throw the ball to. And as long as Matthew Stafford is healthy and upright, guy still has an arm. Guy still know how to run the offense. Sean McVay is still calling the plays. I think the Rams will be all right. Rams, I think, for me, are solidly in there as a playoff team in the NFC. And it wouldn't surprise me if this team makes a deep playoff run. You heard it here first. I just want to be on record saying you heard it here first. Now, moving on to other teams in the division, you have the Seattle Seahawks, who are, for me, this is going to be kind of a hard team to kind of break down. One, Pete Carroll is no longer the head coach of this team, and it's been a long time since we said Pete Carroll has not been the head coach for the Seattle Seahawks. He's been there for a long time. He's established a culture there. I'm not sure what we're getting as far as what the culture is going to be. Now, you do have some nice pieces on the offensive side of the ball. If Geno Smith is able to stay upright, I think Seattle, made some mild investments into the offensive line because that was a problem. Well, I'm gonna get to Arizona in a minute. Listen, when you look at this division, 49ers are clear, heading above everybody else, but it's a lot to like when you kind of break down these teams in this division, but things they kind of have to break a certain kind of way. How you doing, Miss VS? Welcome to the show. Miss VS, listen, I'm trying to add bells and whistles to the show. As you can see, I got the little background. It didn't take me a minute to, I had to do a whole new layout on StreamYard. StreamYard does not, I might be, going to like an OBS type of setup soon. StreamYard is mildly frustrated. But anyway, back to the breakdown. Seattle Seahawks, hey, listen, they got a lot to like on the offensive side of the ball. Have a very good running back in Kenneth Walker. Offensive line they made some improvements because they needed to make some improvements. When you look at the wide receiver core, it's about as deep as any wide receiver core in the league as far as talent is concerned. You have DK Metcalf, who is a specimen of a wide receiver, is a true number one wide receiver. Tyler Lockett, a very good number two wide receiver, and JSN, a guy who was a rookie last year out of Ohio State. Has firmly kind of established himself as the number three, could possibly move into the number two role depending on how well he progresses throughout the season. It's a lot to like on the offensive side of the ball for Seattle. Questions you got to have: offensive line with the additions that they made. Is it going to be enough to kind of keep Geno Smith upright? And what do you get from Geno Smith? Geno Smith, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Yeah, one pretty good year. He got paid. And that's kind of how it works in the NFL. He had one pretty good year. Didn't have the kind of year you would expect coming off of a Pro Bowl year. You thought you was going to be able to get some consistency, but this has been the story of Geno Smith's NFL career. He's had his highs, he's had his lows. You kind of know, you don't know what you're going to get when you really look at the quarterback position in this division. He's got the most question marks. It's not to say that he's a bad quarterback, but he has the most question marks. It's kind of like, what are you getting from Geno Smith from game to game? Some games he's looking awesome. Some games he's looking, like that's why he got ran out of New York. I mean, I'm just saying. When you go to the defensive side of the ball, I do like some of the pieces that they have on the defensive side of the ball. The biggest question I got to have, and I don't think they really addressed it. They brought in Big Byron Murphy, defensive tackle from the University of Texas in the first round for the interior of the defensive line. Listen, they got a lot of speed on the outside, but this team sucks in run defense. This team absolutely sucks in run defense, and it cost them a lot of games last year because they was not able to stop teams. You have the offense that can go up and down the field and challenge and can run with anybody. But that defense, it left a lot to be desired. As far as the run defense. If they can get a better defense, if they can get better defensive, especially against the run, because this team was, I want to say, let me look real quick. Yeah, 30th in total defense. And they was getting gouged. The only worst run defense is the team we're going to talk about next. Is the Arizona Cardinals. Teams was able to just run up and down the field, and kind of that limits your offense. If this team can move up from 30th to possibly 20th, we're talking about Seattle possibly being a possible playoff team, and with the NFC being what it is, like I said, 9 or 10 wins can get you into the playoffs. 9 or 10 wins can get you into the playoffs in the NFC. Hell, 8 when you really kind of break it down, because it's a lot of question marks for some of these teams out of the top 2 tiers. For me, Seattle could be one of those teams that kind of sneak in and get a wild card, kind of like Green Bay did last year. A lot of people didn't see them coming. They got their act together in the second half and made a run and made the playoffs. Made a little noise. Seattle could be in that boat, but it all depends on the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, they got a lot of speed on the outside. They've tried to improve the pass rush. Really needed to improve the interior of the defensive line. I do like Byron Murphy, the big defensive tackle out of Texas. I watched him play last year. That's a mountain of a man. That is a mountain of a man, and he does have some pass rush ability. So hopefully, if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, hey, you're going to get much improved defensive production on that side of the ball, and maybe your team makes the playoff run. I don't know. As we close out the NFC West, you have the Arizona Cardinals, and I will say this, and I said this last season about Arizona. This is a team did not have a lot of talent in a lot of key positions, and they've tried to address some of those through free agency and through the draft this past offseason. But this is a team that, listen, I watched up close. As they played hard. And it's not. Not that everybody doesn't play hard, but this team plays with a lot of heart, plays with a lot of attitude. Even though they know that, hey, talent-wise, they was not there, especially at certain key positions. We're talking about Kyler Murray being out there without really a true number one type receiver. Hopefully, they drafted that guy in Marvin Harrison Jr., who was fantastic in college at Ohio State. Maybe they've got their number one receiver, but he's a rookie. We got to see what you got on the field. But this team didn't have a lot of talent at a lot of positions. They've done well to try to bring in some talent and really, started to turn it around. But I'm not. This is a team that could, finish below 500. And it wouldn't surprise me if they finish below 500. But this is a team that has a lot of fight. Get after it, and even though their talent is limited in certain places, and they've tried to address that through the draft, through free agency. It's a lot to like, with this team. It's still a lot to like with this team defensively. I just don't think they made enough additions on that side of the ball. They've tried to address it. I don't think they made that many additions on that side of the ball. And when you're looking at the rest of the teams in the division, when we're talking about talent on the offensive side of the ball, Arizona clearly, even if Marvin Harrison Jr. goes out there and has a Puka Nacua type season as a rookie, you're still fourth in this division. And Arizona at times last year struggled to kind of score. But I think this team is going to be much more improved. Now, does that mean a possible playoff appearance? No, not in my opinion. I think this team is about a season or two away, a good draft, a good offseason away from really, really competing for a playoff spot in the NFC. But listen, this is not a team I'm going to overlook on a week-to-week basis. It's a team that's going to go out here and play hard, and they're going to compete. Like I said, they've gotten a little better, but it's a little better in the division that you play in. It's not gonna do it, man. It's not gonna do it. But I like the direction that the team is going. I just don't, talent. The NFL. You can scheme all you want. You can have the right coaching staff in place and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you do not have talent and guys in position to make plays like that, it don't matter. It really don't matter. But I like what I saw from Arizona last year. I'm expecting to see a lot of that same type play from them. Like I said, they made some improvements, but it ain't enough for them to leapfrog any of the three teams in this division. But San Francisco, I got winning the division. I got the Rams making the playoffs. Seattle, one of those dark horse type teams that could make a push to the playoff. What's going on, man? What's going on? Hey, make sure you tune in for tomorrow. I'm doing a show tomorrow. Sorry about the housekeeping. I'm doing a show tomorrow. It will be about 8:30. We will be doing some NBA type talk. So make sure you tune in for that. It's kind of a break, but it's some stuff I wanted to cover in regards to that. So I will be doing a show tomorrow over here. So make sure y'all tune in for that. Rams suspect. With the Rams, it's like this. If they healthy, and that was a big problem last year. I think when you look at between Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, and some other key pieces, those guys didn't play a lot of snaps together last year. But when they got healthy, When they got healthy, they got right. This team was a team to be scared of. This was a team definitely to be scared of, the team to be worried of. You have a guy that has won the Super Bowl. You have a coach who has won the Super Bowl. And defensively, yes, you lose Aaron Donald, but they had a lot of young guys get a lot of experience last year, and the defense got better in the second half of the season because those young guys got experience. So I'm looking at, I got Rams. Sometimes my picks is right, sometimes my picks is wrong, but I got Rams. I'm clearly making the playoffs. Now we're going to move on over to the NFC South. This is a division that can go a lot of different ways depending on how well. I think quarterback play is going to be the biggest storyline for the NFC South for this upcoming season, because when you look at the quarterbacks in question, I'm talking about Kirk Cousins, I'm talking about David Carr, I'm talking about Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to put Bryce Young in that conversation just yet. We'll talk about him and his situation with the Panthers in just a second. But when I look at the quarterbacks that's in this division, do they wow me? No. Can you win with these guys to a degree? Yes. But how much winning can you do with these guys is the question. I'm going to start with the team I think is going to win the division. I'm going to be looking at the Atlanta Falcons. Look, last year I was hard on this team because they kept rolling out Desmond Ridder Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. Ended up eventually moving on from him this past offseason. And I think quarterback play was what really held this team back last year from not only winning the division but making a little noise, because they have a very good defense in Atlanta. They keep building on that defense in Atlanta. They went out, traded for Matthew Judon, gave up a third-round pick. I like him as kind of like the edge rusher that they have been missing for so long with the Falcons. You bring in but let's go back to the offensive side of the ball. You bring in a Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be, his presence on the field, I think is going to be able to unlock some of the sort of missed out potential for some of the weapons that they have on the offensive side of the ball. I think Kirk Cousins, if he's healthy, and that's going to be a big if coming off of an injury, if he stays healthy the whole year, he's going to be able to take advantage of a Kyle Pitts. He's going to be able to take advantage and unlock a Drake London. I think his presence is not going to allow teams to stuff the box. I think Bijan Robinson, who I think is a very special back talent-wise, I think he's going to have a much better season. His presence alone, if he's healthy and plays at the level that Kirk Cousins is capable of playing at, you talk about Atlanta's got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball who was not able to properly be showcased and used due to the limitations that they had at the quarterback position. I think I want to kind of revisit the draft pick. They drafted Michael Penix in the first round. I was one of those people that was kind of like a head scratcher, like, why would you draft Penix and you just gave Kirk Cousins all that money to a free agency? But I think when I'm looking back on it in hindsight, I think it was a pretty good pick. I'm not going to champion the pick because you don't waste first round picks on guys, especially quarterbacks. It's not going to be seeing the field anytime soon. But considering, having a guy like a Penix, get him, has a lot of talent, get him coached up, get him, let him learn behind Kirk Cousins, and maybe 2 years from now, he could be, quarterback one if they decide to move off of Kirk Cousins and his contract. So I'm in hindsight, it's pretty good. I wouldn't have drafted the guy that high. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't have drafted him that high, but I get it. Kind of looking a little forward thinking from the Falcons. But I got the Falcons to be out of Cousins, Carr, and Mayfield. I feel more comfortable. And that's weird saying that when you're talking about Kirk Cousins. I feel more comfortable with Kirk Cousins going forward. Just for the simple fact, have a good offensive line in Atlanta. You have a potentially special running back. You have talent at the tight end position, at the wide receiver position. Kirk gonna be out of the business season too. Hey, you never know. You never know. But when I look at this team defensively, this was one of the top. I would say top, in my opinion, top 10 defensive stats. Kind of back that up. Also, what's the top 10 defense last year? You just had an offense that, like, Jesus. When Desmond Ridder was the quarterback, I was picking against the Falcons, even though I think when you look at the rest of the roster, they have a better team. But if your quarterback was Desmond Ridder, you want to win it. I'm sorry, not sorry. But I got the Falcons for right now. It's my pick to win the division, but this is a division. Hey, it comes down to quarterback play. Either one of these top three guys can lead their team to winning the division. Talking about the team that finished second last year in the division, talking about the New Orleans Saints. David Carr, they did make some additions to the offensive line, had to with some of the injuries that they have. New Orleans is one of those tweener type teams. It's hard to kind of get a read on what they do well. Defense can play lights out at times, but sometimes it falters. Offense, David Carr can, wow you one week and have you scratching your head the next. I don't think, and reason why I got this team kind of finished in second, and that's not to say that this team couldn't finish first. I don't think they have enough talent for me, and this is just me looking at the roster. Enough talent. Hold on for a second. Got somebody backstage. Give me a sec. Welcome to the show.
Yo.
What's going on, Ghost Man?
Ain't nothing, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Your screen. You got some new shit going on,
huh? Listen, I'm trying to add some bells and whistles to the show, man.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. Ain't nothing wrong with it at all. But I don't know, man. Like it was a weird move, like you said, drafting that kid while you had Kirk Cousins, but the GM might know something that we all don't know, as far as like, being that there's a lot of dumb general managers in the NFL that might give you some like decent, draft picks for a dude like Kirk Cousins, either mid or towards the end of the season. Kind of like what the Jets did with Aaron what's his name? I can't even remember this dude now. Aaron Rodgers, like,
yeah, and they had Zach Wilson. I get it. I don't mind them drafting Penix. I think my issue at the time was like, why draft him that high? If you drafted him in like bottom of the first round, I get it. Kirk Cousins coming off an injury, get a guy in here and Penix is a talented quarterback. Washington last year, a talented quarterback. He's got some things to kind of work out. I think him sitting for a year or two could do him well. And it's good. Listen, he can't be any worse than Desmond Ridder was last year. Even if he gets there, he can't be worse than Ridder was last year.
Right. I mean, sometimes you plan ahead. Like we picked Jalen Hurts. People said the same thing about Hurts. We draft why they draft him in the second round?
Yeah.
Don't they got Carson Wentz? And that turned out actually to be a genius move. Because Carson was like no good. But Doug Peterson actually did the same thing for McNabb back in the day. So
yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to be forward thinking, especially with an older quarterback. There's got a bit of an injury history. And when you have opportunity to take a quarterback that could be, talent wise, I like Penix. Talent wise, is, I think you got to, learn the X's and O's a little bit better. But I think he's in a prime situation. And I think and this is the reason why I picked Atlanta to win the division this year. Even if Kirk Cousins is what Kirk Cousins has been his entire career, and Unc, you said unreliable, cracks under pressure, Kirk Cousins is good enough to keep a team around 500 and a little bit above.
You don't like Carolina?
Oh, no. Carolina is, I don't know. And I like Bryce Young coming out of college, but, you good over there?
Yeah, I got these. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, these earphones,
But no, I don't like Carolina. I don't like Carolina. I don't like the direction that they're going in. You brought in a couple guys to kind of help Bryce Young out. You draft Leggett, who I think would be he's okay to me, a number 2 receiver. You trade for Deontay Johnson, so he's got more weapons than he had last year. But the offensive line, they added some pieces to kind of stabilize him, but I don't think this organization, I don't think they have that kind of faith in him like that. They took him first overall. He's not. First of all, he's not a prototypical quarterback as far as size is concerned. Terrible rookie season under the head coach that obviously didn't know what he was doing with him. And I look at the team. Carolina's going to finish bottom of this division to me. It's already talks. It's like Bryce Young hasn't even played 2 seasons yet. It's already talks in Carolina that this team might be moving on from him depending on how the season go. I mean, let's imagine if Carolina tanks again and they end up with the number 1 pick again. They're going to take a Carson back. They're going to take another quarterback.
Is this the coach first or second year down there?
No, this is the coach first year. He's the coach. He was the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay last year, and this is his first year. They're kind of like looking at him with the job that he did with Baker Mayfield last year, and hopefully he can have listen. I like Bryce Young. They've added some pieces to the offensive line to give him better protection, but it's not a recipe for success. The defense got a little bit worse. You trade off Brian Burns, who I thought you should have moved off of last offseason when teams was offering you the 2 first-round picks. I think the Giants was offering that last year for him, and they got him at a cheaper price this year. But it's not a lot like in Carolina. Like I like Leggett, wide receiver. I think out of South Carolina. I like him. He's a big body receiver, but he's not a Marvin Harrison Jr.
Carolina, those are teams that surprise you a little bit. I don't know.
Nah,
I'm telling you, it happens every year in the NFL, dude. Every year in the NFL, it's a team you be like, oh, nobody even would have thought that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team like that, but like last season, it was the Houston Texans. You didn't know how they was going to perform with a rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, but it was a lot. It was a lot to like with the team. Prior to him taking over, they had some talent there. Like when you look at Carolina's roster, you have what's Miles Sanders still in the check. You have Deontay Johnson, who's had a pretty good run in Pittsburgh, but has his own issues. Reason why they traded him. You have Leggett as the rookie. You have a pretty good tight end. I mean, they made some additions to the offensive line, but when you look at the rest of I look at the division. Bryce Young is 4th, clearly 4th. Defense has some talent in spots, but I think Atlanta's defense is better. I think New Orleans' defense is better. I think Tampa Bay's defense is better. So where does that leave Carolina? Now they could go on one of those runs, but you have another head coach. You don't know what he's going to do. The organization is not really behind the rookie quarterback like that.
Well, let me ask you this: How many wins would it take to win this division? Like 8 or 9?
Yeah, I believe 8 or 9. 8 or 9 will get it done for you. I think 8 or 9 will get it done. It's kind of hard to kind of. I don't think no team. All right. I don't think no team in this division is going to run away from the pack. I mean, that's why it's kind of hard to pick because Tampa Bay won last year. I think the previous year might have been New Orleans or Atlanta. Like this is kind of a hard division. Carolina is not in that mix for me this year. I mean, David Carr has shown flashes that he can be a pretty good quarterback at times. Mayfield had a very good year last year. Tampa Bay could win the division. When you look at the pieces that they brought back, they could win the division. I mean, they have a top shelf defense over there. Mayfield had a very good year, but is he consistent enough to follow up on it? He just got paid. Mike Evans got paid. It's a lot to like with Tampa Bay, but You know, 8 or 9 wins could easily win this division. So I mean, it's kind of up in the air. It's kind of up in the air. With it. How you doing, beautiful? And how you doing, Dr. Nick? You creeping in here all late. Y'all must have been somewhere else.
Yeah, my bad. My Mexican neighbors, man, they get coronas in them. They get to acting retarded. But I mean, again, even if a team goes from like bad to average, 8-8, 9-7, that's pretty average. I could see a team like Carolina doing that. First year head coach, bringing in some new energy, different strategy. Second year quarterback might pick up a little bit of, knowledge and surprise some people. You just never know. But again, I'm just looking at some of the sleeper teams, because let's be honest, the other three teams that they don't really impress you, do they?
Well, none of them do. That's why I said this the entire. I don't think the Super Bowl. I don't think none of these teams are making it to the NFC Championship. I think whoever comes out of this division and makes the playoffs, they're one and done. And that's kind of what makes it kind of fun. But I think for me, I think Atlanta has the best chances. If they'd have had a quarterback last year, they would have made the playoffs and made it very comfortably. Just didn't have a quarterback. But this division, as a whole, it doesn't blow me away. But somebody got to win it.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't see Carolina.
It's up for grabs.
Yeah, I don't. For me, sleeper picks out of the NFC this year. I'm going to say Chicago is giving me that sleeper type vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
Chicago's giving me that sleeper type vibe. I think, Seattle might surprise some people.
Possible.
If they can get their defense right, Seattle can score with the best of them. But outside of them two, as far as like if Carolina wins 8 games, I would be highly surprised. I would consider that a successful season, even if they don't make the playoffs. If they win 8 games, I would consider that.
You like Seattle over Arizona?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
Arizona got more. I think Arizona got more potential, especially offensively. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr. Seattle, they still running Geno Smith out there, right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm not excited about Geno. I get it, but give me DK Metcalf over Marvin Harrison. I'm just saying right now. I'll take DK Metcalf. I know what I'm getting from Tyler Lockett. JSN had a very good rookie year. I mean, they got talent. Kenneth Walker is a good running back. Their problem last year wasn't offense because they could score with the best of them. The problem was defense. Couldn't stop nobody. I just think I think Arizona played hard last year. Surprised some people during different stretches of the season. I think they got something good going. But you can have all the good schemes, and you eventually got to get talent in there. You gotta have some talent before we start talking about you being in the conversation of a possible playoff team. I like Arizona. I don't think they're better than Seattle. I don't think they're better than the Rams, and definitely not the Niners. So I mean, somebody got to finish last. And I think Arizona.
49ers. Of course, they come out on top of that. But you always there's always with some of these other divisions. There's these clear cut favors, and then there's these other 3 teams, and you just look at them and you say, they might got a shot to make a wild card, and surprise a few people.
Yeah, Green Bay was one of those teams like in the second half of last season. Like, if you wasn't paying attention, Green Bay and the Rams second half of the season, they was dangerous in the NFC. Green Bay was that team last year. I mean, I'm kind of looking at Chicago like, they got a rookie quarterback, but he's got some guys. They put some talent around him. He's got legit number 1 receivers, guys he can throw the ball to.
Right.
So, you know, I'm looking at Chicago. Chicago could make some noise. I think Detroit is still the team to beat in that division, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if Chicago beats out Green Bay. I don't know what I'm getting from Jordan Love. He had one good year.
I mean, Detroit kind of surprised a lot of people last year.
It is surprised. Listen, it ain't surprised me. I've been saying they was a sleeper team for the past 3 years. I was like, eventually, you know, listen, they could have
3
had
years, and
yeah. I mean, it takes a while, but you can kind of see like Arizona, if they can get some talent in there, we could be talking about them. Because eventually San Francisco, you fall off. You got to pay those guys, and Brock Purdy's going to be in line for a healthy paycheck. You got to pay him. You got to pay him. So,
you know, I just don't see. You know,
what's since you here?
He's replaceable. He's replaceable.
Who's replaceable?
Brock Purdy.
Very much so. I mean, but he's perfect for the system. I mean, talent wise, he doesn't have the biggest arm. He's accurate, but most quarterbacks that play in a West Coast offense are accurate quarterbacks. But you know, there was no pressure. Listen, he strolls out there with no real pressure. All he has to do is get the ball to the playmakers. You got playmakers at wide receiver. You have one of the best tight ends in Kittle. The offensive weapon of choice in Christian McCaffrey, one of the best offensive line. Listen, you just have to get the ball into the hand of the playmakers. But since you're here, who is it? I'm gonna give my Super Bowl. Who is your Super Bowl picks this year?
Really don't have one. You know, I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm
I mean, Eagles. Take your fandom out of it. Who do you think would likely make the Super Bowl? You got Eagles in the Super Bowl?
We made some good off-season moves as far as free agency, but again, you know, I got to see how these cornerbacks do, and I let me just say this: take the fandom out of it.
Yeah,
I like Detroit over San Francisco now because I think San Francisco might have a little bit of a hangover. AFC, I don't want to say Kansas City going back because I really don't want to see them go back, but like, who's really a threat? Is Baltimore going to really do it this year? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think for the AFC Championship, I got AFC Championship game in my head right now. I got Chiefs and Ravens, and I got Ravens having home field. I think Ravens get it done this year. I think Ravens get it done this year. But listen, I got Detroit and Baltimore in my Super Bowl. I got Detroit and Baltimore in my Super Bowl. I got Detroit. I got Detroit over the 49ers. Because I think Dan Campbell makes better head coaching decisions. Listen, they was in line to be the number 1 seed last year. I look at their team offensively; they can run with anybody, and I think defensively, those young guys are getting better. They added some pieces, and I think, you know, like you said, San Francisco is going to have a bit of a letdown. And when we're talking about what's going on, you know, week 1 is about to, you know, season about to kick off. Your left tackle is not in house. Your wide receiver 1 is not in house. Even if they come in this week, you know, you don't know what kind of shape they're in for real. You know, it's contract. You know, I mean, can you imagine, you know, Trent Williams, the best offensive lineman, not being out there protecting Brock Purdy's blind side?
Right.
You know, not having Ayuk, who, you know, had a number 1 receiver type year. Like I don't think San Francisco falls off the map, but you fall back to the pack a little bit.
Right.
And then, you know, the whole conversation is going to be about, you know, even if you get those guys back, you had to pay them. What is Brock Purdy finna get? Because San Francisco, you have an embarrassment of talent, but eventually, and this, with your own team, eventually you got to pay these guys, and eventually you run out of money to pay these guys, and somebody's got to go. Who goes? Who goes? Like, are you going to try to bring Ayuk back on the 1 year? Hope he makes it through, and but then you're in the same situation next year.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't.
Yeah, I got Detroit, Baltimore. I think Baltimore. I think they're going to have a lot better play calling. I think when I kind of look back at it now, them leaning more into the run. Now, I would have liked them to go get a better, a number one receiver for Lamar Jackson, get him a true number one to work with, and see what he has at quarterback. But if you're not going to do that, I think bringing in Derrick Henry, leaning more into a running style team. And we talked about this on Tuesday. Smash Mouth still, you can still win with Smash Mouth style football. And I think them leaning into that, if you lean on that run game against Kansas City, who I think is going to, kind of have their own kind of a Super Bowl type hangover, because they wasn't looking like the best team in the AFC for the much part of last year. Defensively, losing L'Jarius Sneed, letting him go, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. It's got to hurt eventually. Those departures that you have after winning Super Bowls, it catches up to you. This might be the year to catch up. I got Detroit, Baltimore in my Super Bowl. Now I do got Kansas City making it to the AFC Championship. I do have. I got Niners and Detroit, with Detroit having home field. Now, as a fan, I want my boys to win, but I'm I'm the analyst now. But I think Detroit is the best team in the conference, and I think Baltimore is going to try to repeat what they did last year, but finish out the season strong. Like if you're not going to be a balanced team, we're going to run. Okay, let's go get Derrick Henry, who is a load unto himself. The power of a Derrick Henry, and you still got to worry about Lamar with the RP. It's a scary combination they got up there in Baltimore.
Do you think Cincinnati's interesting to me? Because Burrow, like 2-3 years ago, was looking like the next big thing, and kind of fell off. Do you think he rebounds this year?
I think if he's able to stay healthy, and that's always been the biggest thing with Burrow. Can he stay healthy? And then you got the Jamar Chase situation. Like, will he be there for week 1?
Right.
Like, I know the head coach was like, yeah, he'll be ready there for week 1. Dude walked out to practice in street clothes. Like, yeah, I ain't doing nothing. Like, Cincinnati is like one of those kind of teams, you kind of put a question mark by, because if they're healthy and engaged, a Joe Burrow led offense, they can play with anybody. Defensively, they're kind of middle of the pack, but you don't really need a top 10 if your offense is able to play at the level that they can. But it's a question mark for me. Is Burrow, can he make it through a season? Health is like, always been his thing since he's been in the league. He gets hit a lot. He holds on the ball maybe a little bit too long, but he gets hit a lot. And they tried to improve the offensive line, but it's just not worked out like it should. It's not with the guys that they brought in. It just hasn't panned out like that. So I'm not looking at Cincinnati to make a run. To me, is maybe on the outside pick of the AFC.
Buffalo.
No, Josh Allen turns the ball over too much for me, man.
Josh Allen. He gets the media really like pumps him up too. but they got rid of Stephon Diggs.
Not just Diggs, but you lost Diggs, your number one. You lost Gabe Davis, who was your number two. Like they lost a lot of guys trying to get under the salary cap, and that's like we talk about teams having to make decisions. Like you got rid of your top two wide receivers, and you're depending on a rookie, Keon Coleman, who I like out of Florida State, but he ain't Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, again, it's like, what excuse would they make for Josh Allen this year? Oh, he lost all his weapons, but we saw Patrick Mahomes lose his weapons, and he just kept it moving. So
you know how the media is, man. Like they like Josh Allen, even though
they love him.
Like dude, he reminds what Josh Allen reminds me of as far as like how the media kind of treats him, how they used to treat Brett Favre.
Yeah, like, they used to treat Tony Romo the same way.
Well, no, they used to kill Romo. He's the Cowboys quarterback. They're gonna kill.
Nah, it was dudes that was still. I'm like, yo, this dude never made it out. Like he gets in December and just stinks up the joint. But
Romo had a good enough. He had a good career.
But you know what though? At least Brett Favre, won one. You know what I'm saying? Josh Allen hasn't won anything.
But you think about Brett Favre, for as long as he played, and for him just to win one, but he left so many Super Bowls out there with killer turnovers in the playoffs. Killer turnovers, because man, I just don't understand the glazing of certain quarterbacks. Like Josh Allen, go out there, have 3 picks, and they'll talk about how well he ran the ball and how he had to carry the team, and hey, Buffalo ain't my out. Miami is a team I'm looking at.
Yeah, Miami definitely Miami.
I think Miami, if they stay healthy, with the speed that they have, not just a wide receiver, but the speed they got in the back, like Devon Achane can move. He's got some get up. Tua, when he's healthy, he's typically in the conversation for MVP conversation. Like it's a lot to like with Miami, but if they're healthy, especially Tua, and that running back room, if they're healthy, I mean it's hard to stop. It's gonna be hard to stop Miami, man. They got too many weapons, and McDaniel does a very good job of putting those guys in position to make plays. Like it's a scary offense when you look at Miami, with the speed that they got, how they move around Tyreek Hill, how a lot of people wasn't paying attention. Jalen Waddle is starting to get his route running up where he's not just a deep threat. It's a lot to like with Miami. But I got Baltimore, I got KC.
All right, one last team. Houston. Now, if they was to take one step, what would be like, besides winning the Super Bowl, what would be? Would it be the championship in the AFC, or would it be like the Super Bowl for them?
For the Texans, for me to say, yeah, they had another successful year. They'd have to win the division, and I think they'd have to. I mean, to really, from where they was at last year, win a playoff game.
Got into the second round. Yeah, got into the second round.
Yeah.
I mean, a deep run into being like the top 4 team, like that'll put CJ Stroud at 2025, 2026 season MVP talk.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Texans improve their win total and win a playoff game, improve on what they did last year as far as like the wins, I think you're headed in the right direction. We could be talking about the Texans moving into that upper echelon of teams in the AFC, because I think Buffalo to me, takes a step back. Like, I mean, they lost guys on the deep. We talk about offense. They lost guys on the defensive side of the ball. Too, you know, they lost some key players. You know, pretty much your whole secondary is going to be new guys. So, you know, I think Buffalo comes back to the pack.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, you know, I look for surprise teams, you know, because I just can't keep going off of like, oh, on paper these teams look good, you know, and they just go out there and they just disappoint you, you know. So I'm looking at some of these other teams and I'm like, you know, they.
Well, here I'll give you a good sleeper team to kind of pay attention to. If Gardner Minshew plays within himself, the Raiders could be one of those teams you kind of like surprised by at the end of the season. I like the head coach. I like the culture that they got there. With him there, I mean, this team it was a completely different team when they got rid of McDaniel's ass. And he took over.
How does he still get jobs out the side? Like
the Belichick name, man. The Belichick name, you know, is you know how they go. If you part of one of these guys' coaching tree, man, they'll find a job for you somewhere.
I think Andy Reid's tree's been a lot more successful than Belichick's tree.
I agree. When you look at the guys,
Harbaugh, Peterson,
I mean, Andy Reid has a very successful tree, but you know something about that Belichick name in the 6 Super Bowls gets guys jobs. Like, you know, Matt Patricia. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, has anybody from his tree won anything?
None that I can, you know.
Yeah.
None. Not you know, Charlie Weiss. Nope. I think Romeo Crennel got a you know, he got some bad
smoked
teams.
in the Browns. Like,
yeah, they get him back. He got some bad teams. He wasn't, you know, they weren't putting him in a position to he wasn't getting the McDaniels type jobs where a team was kind of like middle of the road and they bringing you in to take him over the top. Yeah. Yes, you know, Romeo Crennel has some crappy teams as a head coach, man.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Matt Patricia, like that whole Detroit thing. I don't see the way that he performed in the Super Bowl in 2017. Like, backup Nick Foles put up 41 points on him. I didn't think he deserved it.
He was your defensive coordinator last year. You see how that kind of went?
Yeah, exactly. You know, that Belichick tree is really suspect. But Andy Reid has definitely. You look at the head coach in Buffalo. He came from Andy Reid. Steve Spagnuolo, he came from Andy Reid. Like I said, Peterson and Harbaugh down in Baltimore. That's Andy Reid's tree.
Yeah.
So, man, I think Juan Rivera did some work under Andy Reid too for a little bit. He ain't won nothing.
Yeah, Andy Reid he had a lot of guys. I want to say Gruden worked up under him for a time. Like, he's had guys, you know, come up on. Yeah, but you know, they don't make, like I said, that Belichick. You know, that aura of, you know, from the Patriots and the rings, man. I think if Andy Reid had that kind of success in one place, you would see, you know, pretty much the same thing.
Right. But you know, I think when it's all said and done, more credit would be given to Brady than it would be Belichick, because ever since Brady's left, I mean, you kind of see that Belichick really lost his mojo.
I think you got to give a bulk. I would say this. If I had to grade it out, I would say 60-40.
60-40.
Well, I mean, because I say 60-40 because, you know, let's be honest. For a lot of those Super Bowls, it wasn't like Tom Brady was lighting it up. For a lot of that run they had together, the Patriots had one of the better defenses consistently.
Oh yeah. But you know, Brady came you know, that comeback against Atlanta.
Was it really a comeback against Atlanta, or just Atlanta? You know, did they shoot themselves? I think you got to look at the Falcons. They kind of beat themselves with their play calling in that one, because there's no way they should have came back in that one.
No, well, they shouldn't have, but you know, he made it happen. I could give the defense credit for the win over Seattle but then again, Pete Carroll kind of like, you know, gave him a gift by not running the ball.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I gave it 60. I say 60-40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I give Brady
Manning.
60. Eli beat him twice.
Eli beat him twice. But I'm just saying, like, you know, once you see Brady leaves and he goes to Tampa and he wins it, and Belichick hasn't had a deep run in the playoffs ever since Brady left. Not one.
Well, I mean, that was to be, you know, for me, that was to be expected. Eventually, I mean, but you know, you think about New England, they never really, outside of the year they brought in Moss, it wasn't a free agent destination for a lot of guys. You know, that Belichick way. You know, we can win, but you really look at, you know, it wasn't like New England was bringing in the top talent. Who the hell wants to play in New England?
No, but they drafted well. They drafted well. It was guys that they brought in that you would think that the system, you know, they didn't need, you know, the guy. They just needed like a guy.
Man, they haven't drafted well in like 7 or 8 years, dude. Like you can't.
But I'm saying during their run though, they you know they had some good. They had Hernandez and Gronk, Vince Warford. You know, I remember that draft too, because we wanted Vince here in Philly, but we wound up drafting Sean Andrews, like offensive guard. First 2 seasons, he looked like he was great. He got injured, and next thing you know, he's addicted to marijuana. And he's out the league. So,
well, I mean, Belichick is where he needs to be at this point. He's in a, you know, commentating booth.
Right.
I think
roast.
It'll be that age, man. Listen, Pam, they getting paid what he's getting paid to this talk. Come on, man. Oh man, I be in the microphone every day. Be in front of the microphone every day. You know, Brady making more talking about football than he was making playing.
Yeah, but you know, like I said, man, I don't know. I think I would say, me personally, I would just say that Belichick it's a little tainted to me, you know, because I thought he would have. I didn't expect him to, like, you know, keep being like this dominant, you know, dynasty after Brady left, but I mean, he could at least made it to the AFC Championship game, but he didn't.
There was no talent. When you look at, you know, like I said, how he's drafted and they haven't been able to really bring in the big time free agents. He hasn't drafted well. I mean, it's when you look at the team now, under Gerard Mayo, it's going to take them about 3 or 4 years to kind of put pieces together, because it's not much there. I mean, you may have a guy here, a guy there, but you're not looking like, oh man, one particular unit is going to, you know, we're going to make our identity off of it. They're not talented offensively. They're not talented defensively. I mean, it's a bunch of guys, man. It's hope. New head coach, rookie in place. You know, we'll see. But that's a lot of trash. You know, a rookie head coach has got to clean up. Like the thing with D'Amico Ryans last year, it was talent already there. You know, it was some pieces there already in Houston. You bring in a CJ Stroud, but they had a pretty good run game, already had a pretty good offensive line. Nico Collins was already in place as the number one. So they had guys already in place, but You know, at the time, Bill O'Brien, another Bill Belichick guy, couldn't do nothing with the talent. What's going on,
man?
Yeah,
same old shit, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna get on off ahead, man. Great show, bro. You talk NBA tomorrow?
Yeah, we're doing NBA tomorrow, man. Old school, new school. I'm pretty sure you've been kind of keeping up with that. You know, some of the commentary and you know, the Freestyle Friday.
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, the fallout from that, like that's crazy. So I wanted to do a kind of do a show on that because you know, we can have a real serious discussion about it. Because is he right? Is he wrong?
Well, you know what? I got into like a debate in a barbershop like a week and a half ago. My barber, he claims that Detroit, the bad boy Pistons teams would dominate, you know, this era. And, you know, the toughness defensively, you know what? If you think that way, to me, if you think that way, then you just don't see the evolution of how the game has changed. Like that bad boys team never, ever had to face a dude like Stephen Curry. I mean, Curry pulls into the parking lot, he's in his range. I've seen many games where Curry would take 2 steps beyond half court and chuck it up. And if he hit 4 out of 10, you got to put a hand in his face.
Well, I mean, but to counterpoint that, I mean, that's part of going to be what, you know, the discussion tomorrow. But to counterpoint that, you know, outside of Reggie Miller back in the day, guys weren't running off screens like that and not getting touched. You know, ain't nobody. Come on, man.
It's not. But see, this is the thing. Them Pistons teams, right? Again, the game has evolved. They didn't have to deal with a stretch 4 or a stretch 5. Bill Laimbeer would be completely useless.
Well, let me ask you this.
In today's NBA.
Put this bug in your ear for tomorrow. Is it the game has evolved or has the rules changed? Has the game really evolved or has the rules changed?
I think it's a little bit of both. Because again, okay, your superstar center from that era was not chucking up threes, dude. Just imagine this, right? And I'm because I do want to save it for tomorrow's show. Imagine Bill Laimbeer having to guard a pick and roll against I'm not even going to say Embiid because it'd just be complete nonsense for us even think he could even be a factor out there where he got to crash the point because the point guard can shoot and the center can shoot. They've never seen nothing like that. And I mean, we talking like guarding a pick and roll from beyond like 3 feet past the top of the key. You know, like how is somebody like Bill Laimbeer going to guard that?
Well, I mean, but that leads into the conversation. Is it the game? Has the game evolved, or is just the rules different? Because
again, what would the rules have to do with that particular play right there?
You don't think a Dennis Rodman could be out that far out? I'm just saying.
Okay. So again, they was playing in an era where if you call a pick and roll, right? Say you call Patrick Ewing for the pick and roll. They playing the Knicks. Vice versa. You call Patrick Ewing out for the pick and roll. Who's they point guard? Chris Childs or I forgot. They had another Harper.
Yeah, Mark Jackson.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about Mark when Mark was in Indiana.
Yeah,
they had Derek Harper, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah, Derek Harper was the point guard.
Right. So if he calls Patrick for the pick and roll, Bill Laimbeer, a guy like Bill Laimbeer, Bill Cartwright, only thing they had to do was, stop him from penetration. They'll actually will give him that shot. They'll give him that shot. But they didn't want him penetrating into the lane and collapsing the defense.
See, man, because
they didn't want that.
Listen, I hear you, But you know that we're gonna get into it tomorrow because, like I said,
Right.
part of it's the rules, but part of it, you know, has players gotten better because you know
evolution.
You look at Draymond Green, he's like a poor man's Rodman.
Well, here again, I would debate that because Rodman wouldn't. How much Trey? Would you be fair to say that Draymond on a good night can give you what, like 20 on a good night?
On a very rare good night, but I know with Rodman, I'm getting what 15 boards, 20 boards a game.
But how many points? How many points? Like 2?
How many?
Maybe 4?
I mean, but you know, how many second chance opportunities is Rodman giving me versus? I mean,
again. Imagine Dennis Rodman having to play a pick and roll where he got a shooter like Curry at the point guard.
I hear you. And you're listen. Your argument is you're going to give me a Curry and a guy like a Derek Harper. Like, think about
it. I'll give you Curry and Draymond. Back then, that's a hard pick and roll for that era to defend.
Well, how many guys in that era were 3-and-D type guys? I mean, I think it's
exactly.
But the game is part of its rules, part of its, you know, guys have adapted to the rules, but it's some evolution in there. Like Curry is an anomaly. But not every point guard can shoot like Curry.
But it's not just Curry though. Again, you got stretch 4s and stretch 5s. They didn't deal with that. They didn't deal with the point. All right, all right, Rick Smits.
Listen, who's the MVP this past season?
Who was it? Jokic, right?
3 out of the past 4 years has been Jokic. Jokic doesn't, you know, he has the ability to shoot 3, but his game is what, old school to the heart. I mean, this Embiid at his best,
but he can though. He can.
I mean, he can. But Embiid at his best, you would rather have Embiid on the block than him shooting 3s.
Exactly.
Just because you can don't necessarily mean that, you know, that's the most successful thing for it. And I think Jokic gets that. Yeah, Jokic we'll do this tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll tap in tomorrow. All right. Have a good night.
Hey, you too, man. Appreciate you coming up.
All right.
Yeah. So for the record, for those that like to keep track of who my picks are, I got Detroit, I got Baltimore in the Super Bowl, and my Super Bowl winner is Baltimore. I got Baltimore winning the Super Bowl. Got Kansas City versus Baltimore in the AFC Championship, and I got Detroit, San Francisco in the NFC Championship. Leave your picks in the comments, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Let's go ahead and get up out of here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.